Good evening. Adequate notice of the September 10th Township Committee regular and legal and conference work sessions have been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act by posting written notice and agenda of the meetings on the bulletin board at the municipal building located at 1000 Route 10 in Whippany, by posting on the township's website, and by emailing such notice and agenda to the following newspapers: Morris County Daily Record, the Star Ledger, the Hanover Eagle, and by filing the same with the township clerk.
On roll call, Committeeman Cahill.
Here.
Committeeman Gallagher.
Here.
Committeeman Mahalko.
Here.
Committeeman Francioli is excused this evening, and Committeeman and Mayor Ferramasca.
Here.
4 members in attendance, sir.
Okay, at this time, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance for those who can stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. At this time, I'd request, on behalf of the Township Committee, a moment of silence in recognition and honor of former Mayor and Township Committeeman Severio Sal Iannacone, who served this township in various responsibilities for over 50 years and helped transform this township from a mill town to a fine suburban community. Along with honoring his memory, I would also like to honor those innocents who lost their lives on 9/11/2001. So please, a moment of silence. Thank you. And at this time, the Deputy Mayor is going to lead us in the Township Committee prayer.
Thank you, John. Almighty God, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Hanover Township. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. At this time, our business administrator is going to express some thoughts from Committeeman Ron Francioli in tribute to his colleague and his friend, Sal Iannacone.
This week, Hanover lost Mayor Severio Iannacone, an icon who shaped the Hanover we enjoy today. Sal died peacefully at home at age 97, surrounded by his 5 children. He attributed his longevity to work and commitment, always asking for something more to do. As Mayor Sal was progressive and aggressively fought to move Hanover forward against what sometimes was a tide of resentment. He ignored the noise and focused on the betterment of our community. He was the champion of those in need. The outstanding amount of group homes in Hanover are a testament to his accomplishments for the developmentally disabled. Sal saw that Hanover remained debt-free and affordable. He cared for our senior population and was always there to lend a hand. As my colleague and mentor, he guided me in all things governmental. He cautioned when caution was necessary and praised when praise was earned. He always opened his phone calls to me with, "What the hell are you doing to this town?" Then asked, what help could he give? Sal will never win an award for his diplomacy. It wasn't in his nature. He got in the way of getting things done. As the expression goes, he took no prisoners. But as tough as Sal was as generous and thoughtfully as he was. He loved his family, he loved his work, and he loved his beloved Hanover Township. Opera and song were his passion, and he used it well singing at Notre Dame of Mount Carmel Roman Catholic Church. I will always have a place in my heart for this man who tempered me and guided me through the politics of municipal government. He was truly one of a kind. Sal, rest with the Lord. You gave Hanover over 50 years of your life. Now the Lord will give you life everlasting. God bless you, my good friend. Enjoy your heavenly reward. Ron Francioli.
Thank you, Joe. It's a very nice tribute to Sal. Yes, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we continue, the first order of business is the approval of the Township Committee regular minutes of August 13th, 2020. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Gallagher, seconded by Mr. Faramasca. All in favor?
Aye.
So approved. Ladies and gentlemen, we have two ordinances for consideration of public hearing and adoption this evening. As you will see on your written agenda, the first is a land use ordinance, and this ordinance appeared in full in the August 19th, 2020 issue of the Daily Record. The ordinance and the notice of introduction was also submitted to the Morris County Office of Planning and Preservation as required by the New Jersey Land Use Law. It was also referred to the Hanover Township Planning Board, as is always the case and is required by the Land Use Law. And the Planning Board has an obligation to review the ordinance and then come back with a recommendation to the Township Committee. So in this regard, we have a letter dated August 25th, 2020, signed by Gene Pinadella, the chairman of the Planning Board, and it reads as follows for the record. Dear Mr. Giorgio, at its August 25th, 2020 meeting, the Planning Board reviewed and discussed Ordinance 22-2020, which had been referred to the Board by the Township Committee as required by the Municipal Land Use Law at NJSA 40:55D-26A. If adopted, Ordinance 22-2020 would amend the provisions for the expiration of variances in Section 166-28 of Chapter 166 of the Code of the Township, entitled Land Use and Development Legislation, in order to clarify the application of this policy to the different types of applications involving variances. The Planning Board has determined that Ordinance 22-2020 is not substantially inconsistent with the master plan. The master plan does not contain specific recommendations for the expiration of variances. However, the adoption of Ordinance 22-2020 would clarify the application of the expiration of variance policy and would preserve the intent of this policy in allowing the boards to reconsider the grant of variances in light of changed circumstances. This is consistent with the need for the master plan and zoning regulations to also adapt to changed circumstances. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on ordinance 22-2020. Very truly yours, on behalf of the Hanover Township Planning Board, Gene Pinadella, Chairman. Having read that letter into the record and given notice that the ordinance appeared in full in the Daily Record, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, we need a motion to convene the public hearing. A motion by Mr. Gallagher, seconded by Mr. Cahill. This is on a motion to convene the public hearing on ordinance 22-2020. Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
And Mr. Fermaso.
Aye.
Is there anyone present in chambers or via teleconference to comment on ordinance 22-2020? Hearing none, seeing none, may we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Fermaska, second by Mr. Mahalko. On roll call to close the public hearing. Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
And Mr. Fermaska.
Aye.
Now, on adoption, this is a motion for adoption. Be it resolved that an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Hanover, amending Section 166-28, entitled Expiration of Variances in Chapter 166 of the Code of the Township, entitled Land Use and Development Legislation, be passed on final reading, and that a notice of the final passage of the ordinance be published in the September 16th, 2020 issue of the Morris County Daily Record in accordance with law. May we now have a motion for adoption?
So
So moved by Mr. Gallagher, seconded by Mr. Fermaska. This is roll call for adoption. Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
And Mr. Fermaska.
Aye.
So adopted. Thank you, John, if you could sign. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to ordinance 23-2020, which again appears on page 1 of your written agenda. We'll state for the record that ordinance 23-2020 appeared in full with the notice of introduction in the Daily Record on August 19th, 2020. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, may we have a motion from the governing body to convene the public hearing?
Motion?
We have a motion by Mr. Cahill, seconded by Mr. Mahalko. On roll call to convene the public hearing. Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
And Mr. Fermaska.
Aye.
On public hearing on 23-20, if anyone is present or via teleconference to speak on this ordinance, please do so at this time. Is there anyone wishing to be heard? Please give your name and address for the record.
Okay. My name is Terry Baird, and I live at 180 Parsippany Road in the Whippany section of Hanover. And the only thing that I have to say about this ordinance with all these capital expenses is that they seem to be, you know, it's a large sum of money when you look at the total at the bottom. And after reading the legal agenda for the legal conference and seeing what was discussed there in reference to bonding, I was just curious as to how the town is going to be prudent in their expenses in order to possibly anticipate some kind of shortfall in the tax base next year.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, on the ordinance, Terry,
Yeah.
all of these items were listed as current fund budget items. So what the Township Committee did, which is prudent and wise, is to defer any of these expenditures until such time that we're able to do so, once hopefully we go through this COVID-19. So in order to set the money aside, because if we don't use the money by the end of this year, this calendar year, the money disappears. So legally, the Township Committee has to put everything into ordinance form so that if we're in good shape next year and we can spend the money, it's already embodied in an ordinance and the money can be drawn on. So this money actually is in reserve for 2021 or even 2022. And that's what the Township Committee has done. Township Committee has taken other steps to go through the current fund budget to see where we can save money, cut back, and not have to go to bonding. As Mr. Esposito reported to the Township Committee this evening in the closed executive session, we're doing quite well in terms of tax collections, believe it or not. We're almost at or near what we collected last year. We will have somewhat of a shortfall in revenue with the hotel motel tax, which has been inevitable, but for the most part, and also some shortfall with municipal court. But for the most part, we're in pretty good shape.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is anyone else wishing to be heard concerning ordinance number 23-20? Seeing none, hearing none, may we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Make motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Mahalko, second by Mr. Gallagher. On roll call, Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
And Mr. Faramaska.
Aye.
Now, on adoption, be it resolved that an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Hanover in the County of Morrison, State of New Jersey, authorizing various capital improvement, road construction, reconstruction, infrastructure projects, the purchase of road and park equipment, the purchase of vehicles, and appropriating the sum of $1,321,200 for said improvements and purchases from the Township's 2020 Capital Improvement Fund for the financing of the projects and acquisitions, be passed on final reading, and that a notice of the final passage of the ordinance be published in the September 16th issue of the Daily Record in accordance with law." So at this time, may we have a motion on adoption?
Motion.
So moved by Mr. Cahill.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gallagher. This is roll call for adoption. Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
And Mr. Faramaska.
Aye.
So adopted. Thank you, John. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we now proceed to page 2 of your written agenda. And you'll note ordinances 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. These ordinances will be further considered for public hearing and adoption by the governing body at the next in-person regular meeting of the governing body, which will be held on the 8th of October here in the main meeting room. And at that time, all persons interested in speaking on any of the ordinances will certainly be given an opportunity to be heard. Pursuant to law, the ordinances in full with the notices of introduction will appear in full in the September 16th issue of the Daily Record. At this point in time, are there any comments or questions on introduction on any of the ordinances from the Township Committee? Hearing none, may we then have a motion as a consent agenda to introduce ordinances 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Gallagher.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cahill. On roll call for introduction, Mr. Cahill.
Aye.
Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
And Mr. Faramaska.
Aye.
So introduced. As we continue, ladies and gentlemen, on the last 2 pages, you have resolutions A through N as a consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments from members of the governing body concerning any of the resolutions which appear as a consent agenda?
Move they be approved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Faramasca, seconded by Mr. Gallagher. On roll call to approve the resolutions as a consent agenda. Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalka.
Yes.
And Mr. Faramasca.
Aye.
So approved. And on the last page of your agenda, ladies and gentlemen, payment of our bills, $5,551,230 rather, and 31 cents.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
We have a motion by Mr. Faramasca to pay our bills.
Second.
Second by Mr. Mahalka. On roll call, Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalka.
Yes.
And Mr. Faramasca.
Aye.
So approved. We have 3 raffle applications for Wippenoong American Legion Post 155, Mount View Road School PTA, and the Whippany Park High School. May we have a motion on the approval of the 3 raffles? Motion by Mr. Mahalka, second by Mr. Cahill. On roll call, Mr. Cahill,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher,
Aye.
Mr. Mahalka,
Yes.
and Mr. Faramasca.
Aye.
So approved. Mr. Chairman, members of the governing body, that clears the agenda of the business administrator, township clerk, and I thank you.
And we thank you.
Open to the
At
public,
this,
John.
at this point, can I get a motion to open the meeting to the public?
So moved. Second.
Okay, at this time, if there's any member of the public that would like to address the township committee, please rise and state your name and your address.
Hi, Jeff Basile, 21 Washington Avenue. Wanted to mention a couple of things. Thank you guys for ordinance 23, deferring that money till next year. Washington, Marnie, and those streets really do need to be repaved. So I'm definitely happy that you guys are actually thinking about moving that forward and getting that actually accomplished. Also to Joe and Deputy Mayor Gallagher, thank you guys both very much for your help with the sewer commission in regard to the issue on my property. Last but not least, I submitted an application for the Board of Adjustment. I just wanted to let everybody know I have a great background in the town of Belleville for over 3 years, being on their zoning board, also on the historic preservation committee. Definitely would love to be considered for that. I just hope that my resume gets to you guys, that you guys can see my background and my experience when you guys are making that decision. So thank you all for your help.
Jeff, that resume was submitted to the township committee when you submitted it to me via email. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, are there any other members? Good evening.
Hi there.
Terry.
Me again, Terry Baird, 180 Pacific Road, in the Whippany section of Hanover. I was just hoping to get some clarification on the resolutions as a consent agenda. On letter G, authorizing the execution of the 2020 and maybe project agreement between New Jersey DEP and Township on allocation of additional community program funds.
Sure, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I can address that for
Please.
Terry.
Please.
If I could just borrow the resolutions. Just to give everyone an idea how well we stand in pursuing grant money through the Green Acres program. We had a balance at the beginning of this year, Terry, of $3,677,001.55. And a good portion of that money, about $473,000, will be applied toward the purchase of the approximately 65 acres up in the Trailwood section that will be preserved for eternity for open space preservation. But we also received notice earlier this year that we were in line for another $200,000 grant. So what that resolution does is preserve the $3,677,001.55 plus the additional $200,000, which brings the total amount up to $3,877,001.55.
Wow.
So that's what it does for us.
Very good, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Terry. Is anyone on it, I'm sorry.
Any other members of the public at this time who might be on to telephone want to address the Township Committee? Hearing none, I'd like to motion, if there aren't any other members of the public here tonight physically that want to address the Township Committee. Seeing none, can I get a motion to close this portion of the meeting?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. This portion of the meeting is closed to the public. And at this time, we'd like to invite our attorney, Mr. Samra. Mr. Samra will address the status of Hanover Township's affordable housing obligation. Mr. Samra, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. We are in the process of trying to complete our third round plan and our compliance aspect of this matter. And as I previously reported, the change in the overlay zones from Whippany Road, we've taken another major step with a lot of help from Joe Burgess's office and Township Planner Blaise Blanchow. We had tonight for introduction the River Park ordinance, which, as Mr. Giorgio indicated, will be on for public and final hearing in October. If that ordinance is adopted, that would basically effectuate the change from the overlay zones to a change to River Park and complete that adjustment to the affordable housing settlement. So I'm hopeful that shortly we'll get a final date from the court for the compliance hearing for the third round plan and bring this to a conclusion. That's my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, any members of the committee have any questions about that report? Seeing none, we'll thank Mr. Samra for his report. And at this time, if there's members of the Township Committee that would like to share some highlights, this would be the time, and we'll begin with Mr. Cahan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief, just a couple of things. First of all, on a personal note, my heartfelt condolences for the Iannacone family. Sal was certainly a giant in Hanover Township for many years, and he will never be forgotten, so my condolences. Moving on to the schools, I know there's been, schools just recently opened up, the high schools remotely, the K through 8s with a hybrid model. I spoke with both superintendents just prior to the openings, and it seemed like all plans were in place. I haven't spoken with them. This is only day 2 or 3 of openings for at least the K through 8s, so I haven't followed up with them to see how it's going, but I haven't heard anything to the negative, so I think hopefully things are going well there under these extreme conditions. Lastly, some good news. If you noticed, one of the items, introduction of ordinances, was number 28, had to do with us acquiring a piece of property in a house on Route 10. That house is the Tuttle House, currently owned by the Spada family, which has been extremely generous in offering to donate the property to the township or to the Landmark Commission. This has been a goal of the Landmark Commission for years. It's been talked about for years. We've, I was the liaison for Landmark when I first started 3 years ago, and it was an ongoing discussion about how we can raise money to make a purchase if necessary. Thanks to the generosity of the Spada family, that won't be necessary. However, the Landmark Commission is still working hard on forming a 501c organization so that they'll be able to accept donations from private and corporations and that sort of thing to help to maintain the property and make corrections and actually utilize it. The idea being that we're going to utilize that property as kind of a museum, if you will. Right now we have an archive room with some fascinating stuff, but it's in a closet and it's not really open to the public. This will be our opportunity to actually create something that the public can have access to and really learn much more about the history of the Tuttle House. The Tuttle House was built in 1776. The Tuttle family lived in it until 1913. And another interesting fact, the Spada family has lived in it for the past 100 years. So it's got a long history and a great tradition, and hopefully as things progress, we'll turn that into another gem in Whippany. So thank you. That's all I have.
Very good. Sounds like a big, great addition to our township, and thank the generosity of the Spada family for that tremendous donation to us. Great news. Okay, Ms. Committeeman Mahalko.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. As I reported in the last meeting, I'm sorry to say that Hanover Township Day had to be canceled this year. We're all sad about that. We have thousands of people that show up, and there's just obviously no way that we can control it. But we're looking forward to the future, and hopefully we'll have a bigger and better one next year. With that negative aside, the rest is all positive. B-Meadow Pool, we're going to open up for the next 2 weekends. So Saturday and Sunday this week, Saturday and Sunday next week. We extended the pool a little bit longer so we can enjoy some more of those nice days. The pool was a huge success this year. We had some really good turnout. A lot of new members came, along with a lot of our older members. And it was great to get it open. And again, I applaud all the people that went into getting that pool open this summer. That was huge. We were talking about it earlier before. Just to have an outlet for the kids and the people to come together, just some glimpse of normalcy. As we progress, things are beginning to open up recreation-wise, so check out the website. Karate, yoga, those types of things are coming back around. I know the football and cheerleading is starting their practice. I coach a soccer team. We've been coaching for actually for over a month now. So that stuff is coming back around. Fall ball signups are closing very soon, so if you're of the age for the young kids. So we're starting to get some back. We have some games planned later in the fall into October, but we're starting to get back to some normalcy. So and at that point we'll see more and more things opening back up.
Very good. Exciting news about the pool. It's really great given the challenges which we've had.
Yeah, and they really did a fantastic job. Very professional, very, to the guidelines. They did a nice job doing what needed to get done and safely.
Please give a shout out to them on behalf of the whole committee.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate that. Okay, at this time, Deputy Mayor Gallagher.
Thanks, John. First of all, and this ties into the beginning of the engineering report, school is open, so please drive carefully. Engineering has been coordinating with the Hanover Township Police Department to enhance awareness of speeds on Whippany Road for the Salem Drive section and the Whippany Park section. A pole-mounted radar display sign was installed, and also there's 2 trailer signs with messages by the high school. Thank you very much, Jerry, the guys, and Dave, and School and Park Traffic Safety and HDPD. Thank you. We're finally going out for quotes for 2 major renovations on crosswalks. Brian, you're going to be happy to hear this because Mr. Cahill championed this with us. Reynolds Avenue and B-Meadow School, and Malapartis Road and Lower Malapartis Park.
Great.
It's going to be a very good,
Great news.
safe, elaborate crosswalk with very nice flashing signs. Also, the digital sign for the municipal campus is currently in fabrication and will be delivered and installed shortly. The one other thing I just want to report on, and it's appropriate now because of the last storms, is with trees in our town and the municipal tree ordinance. What we put together with Rich, our municipal arborist, and Robin Dente, who's an incredible writer, is very simple. It says, what is a municipal tree ordinance and why is it important to our town? There's a really nice explanation on why municipalities have a tree ordinance. Once you read through this, you will be able to click on it and read the specifics of the ordinance, and then it also is going to feature frequently asked questions. We looked at this tree ordinance and tree ordinances from surrounding municipalities. And what we're also going to do is work and continue to work.
And they can unmute themselves.
Not yet.
You muted them,
Hey,
sorry.
I think Joe told me to mute one time about 3 years ago.
No, we had to, forget it.
So what we're going to do is also, we're just going to try to make it, as we go, even simpler. We're going to explain it even better. But I think with this explanation, and it will be displayed on the website, it's going to be a nice piece to let our residents know that the tree ordinance is in place to help maintain the look of our suburban community, and also that we're here and our professionals are here to aid them in any way they can to make their properties as safe as possible, our main thoroughfare safe as possible, but maintaining the beautiful suburban look that we have in Hanover Township. So this is an exciting new piece, and I just want to thank Rich and Robin, and of course Joe Giorgio, because nothing gets done without going through Joe's desk. So that's it, guys. Thank you very
Very good.
much.
Thank you.
Good step
Deputy
of
Mayor.
communication, I think, moving forward.
Very good. And speaking of, to the fact that nothing gets done without through Joe Giorgio, our business administrator, there was an important introduction of an ordinance tonight. And I just want to spend a couple minutes on that and have Mr. Giorgio give us a summary of that ordinance. It's ordinance number 26-2020. So we all understand what it is.
Let's have Fred do that.
Fred,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, we're going to have Fred do that. You go ahead, Fred. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. That ordinance 26-2020 relates to the Pine Plaza, commonly known as the Pine Plaza Shopping Center. It's an amendment to the redevelopment plan, but it's important to note it does not change the number of residential units, and it doesn't change essentially the total commercial. What it does is, it's more of a technical issue from the standpoint that the original redevelopment ordinance provided for a certain amount of commercial usage for a number of smaller type commercial retail stores. This provides for the same essentially commercial type use, but it could be all combined into one or two commercial stores. The developer, in accordance with the settlement agreement, nothing changes, would basically have an option. Develop the smaller retail stores, or have a larger or one retail store, but then if you have one larger retail store, there's no convenience stores or gas stations on the site, it would have a less intensity of development that way. So this was done as a review internally with respect to the settlement agreement. This was not done in negotiations with the property owner or in accordance with any concept plan we received from the developer. This was done so that when we go to our compliance hearing, we are in absolute compliance with the settlement agreement, because the amendment still maintains the underlying zoning that's always been at the shopping center, the B10 zone. So it was a technical adjustment so that we as the township, we don't want to be in a situation where a developer later says that we breached some type of settlement agreement and things are different. That's really the main purpose, but there's no concessions or there's no other terms. That was the purpose of it.
Thank you, Fred.
Mr. Severo, we thank you for clarification. We thank also our planner for working on that to make sure that everything is done properly, so that Hanover Township is in the very best position as it can be regarding these settlements. Okay? At this time, if there's no other business to discuss, I'd like to get a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Gentlemen, we thank you for your support this evening and wish you all a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Meeting is adjourned.
Meeting is adjourned.